So, good morning or good night, depending on where you are in the world, and welcome to another interview of the Shield Dude on a Couch. I'm your host, Hector, and today I have from Vindicator, a thrash metal band from Cleveland, Vic, the guitar player and songwriter, and we're here to talk about the new album, Whispers of Death, that comes August 22nd. So, Vic, morning, how are you, man?
Good morning. I'm doing good. I appreciate you joining me this early in the morning because again, I'm a morning person per se. Um, and I'm awake, having my coffee, which we briefly discussed is not as good as yours because it's just Maxwell House.
Yes, so I'm having my coffee in my Shield Dude on a Couch mug, which you can get at friendless.com. Shield Dude on a Couch. Shameless plug. But yeah, no, I have to have my coffee this hour in the morning. Uh, so we're here to talk about Vindicator. So you're a thrash metal band
Mm,
that started in 2005. So you've been 20 years as a band. So yeah, that's 20 years as a band nowadays it's a feat upon itself. So
right.
for for people that do not know Vindicator, tell us a little bit about the history of the band.
We started, well, like I said, it started in 2005. We all went to school together. So we were originally a three-piece, four-piece, I'm sorry, can't do my math. We quickly became a three-piece shortly after that, but the four of us that started the band, we all grew up in the same town, we all went to the same school, so we had the same ideas about making music and how we wanted it to sound. We'd been listening to one of the founding members, Wayne. He had like a massive metal collection, and I was always like always in awe of that. I'd go over his house and he'd be playing me crazy stuff that like everybody knows Metallica and Megadeth, and to a lesser extent, some of the other non-big four bands like Exodus and so on and so forth, Anthrax, and not they're not big four, but he would pull out bands like Mortal Sin, and he introduced me to Annihilator and all this stuff, and all these sounds and all this stuff, and it was like, this is what we should do, this is what we want to do. So when we first started Vindicator, we wanted more like a less refined, I'm sorry, approach to songwriting. We had recently, he and I and my brother were recently in a band were prior to that called Violent Night, so it was more of like a anything goes kind of metal band. There was some prog elements in there, there was some thrash elements in there, and we kind of overcomplicated writing. And it was a great learning experience for us as writers, but it just didn't work out. That band ended up falling apart. Thus, Vindicator was born. Marshall was in a band prior to Vindicator called Black Trinity. He was originally like a black metal vocalist, and he had left that band due to personal reasons, and we were all available at the same time. All right, so let's make this thrash band that's kind of hinges more on Bay Area and the mentality of Bay Area writing. So some punk influence, some new wave of British heavy metal influence. And, we started writing material very quickly. We made a real cheap demo we just did a live demo, recorded it on an iPod. There used to be an attachment for the old iPods called like an iTalk or something. I don't know, plugged right into the base of it. And so we cut like a half hour demo. It was one track with our set list on it, and started giving that away and building up a following. And the rest of that, and I just didn't give up. I mean, that's really the kind of the shortened version of that story. I've been a constant in this band since 2005. We've had different people here and there. We've always had a lot of different lead players, and but I just never quit. And here we are 20 years later, fifth full length. We've got several singles and several EPs, so decent discography, and we've done some pretty fun things. But that's kind of the birthing of it, and again, the condensed version of what I could ramble about for probably several straight hours.
Yeah, no, it's the condensed Wikipedia version.
Yeah, yeah, right, right.
Yeah, but so yeah, no, but 20 years, like I think a lot of newer bands nowadays, they want to like be popular from the get go,
Right.
and sometimes, and that happens a lot in the 90s when bands got like really popular with their first album, they
Yeah.
always had that sophomore slump, usually.
Right, right. Yeah, that's a very real
Yeah,
thing. I can't say that our first album was really popular. Um it got some surprising reviews. Like somehow it wound up getting a review in Decibel. I don't even know how that happened. I think the guy that submitted those particular reviews might have been from Toledo and caught us live or something. I don't know. But so our first album, it did get on people's radar because it had like, outrageous art. It wasn't intended to have the art that it has. We ran into a situation where the art didn't get delivered in time for the pressing, so we had to scramble and we made that album cover. And it's very Exciter-esque, very 80s feeling. The production on the album is very 80s feeling, and we didn't do that intentionally either. That's what we could afford. The guy that engineered the record, that's how he made it sound. And he didn't do that intentionally either. It was literally just the room that we had, the equipment that we had. So the album was a very throwback sounding album. The production's very thin, which isn't bad. It lends itself very well to the songwriting. And the art's very throwback. So, instantaneously people were intrigued just by the art, and then the sound drew them in. So it built up interest in ultimately it culminated in us signing with Heavy Artillery, the now defunct Heavy Artillery, for our sophomore album. Our sophomore album got the most attention probably out of any of our releases because it was the only album to have proper press. It had they had a dedicated PR person that got this stuff out to people, until Whispers of Death. Whispers of Death, we hired a PR firm for this one because they do make a difference in terms of getting, people are going, oh, wow, you're still a band. It's like, yeah, we've never not been a band for 20 straight years, but if they're not seeing it, okay, that makes sense. They would just assume that we went away.
Yeah, I don't understand how cannot people see it because right with social media, Instagram, like if
Right,
you follow a band, they're active.
right,
Like everyone posts shit everywhere. So,
right.
so Whispers of Death. Let's talk about the. So you produced this album. You went with Ben Bennett in
Yeah,
Seattle. Tell us a
yeah.
little bit about the production and engineering and the process of recording this album.
I started tracking guitars for Whispers probably. I got it. I'm gonna get this date wrong because I've had so much going on the last year that things like that tend to slip my mind. I want to say it was started like maybe in 23. I feel like I started writing it in 23. Most of it was what was completed in the last several months. We had the drums tracked this time last year, I think. Yeah. So like the process was very drawn out, due to the fact that Glenn lives in New Jersey, our drummer, and Billy, our lead player, lives in Montana. So we flew Glenn out to track in a studio out here, um, which ultimately probably was a waste of money. It's a great studio. He's very good at tracking himself at home. But it was fun to get him in the studio because I was able to give him, a little direction where he was like, "Hey, what do you want me to do here?" Having that real time connection is superior than having, "Hey, go back and retrack this." So the tracking, it was recorded in several different places. The leads and the vocals and the main rhythms were tracked in this studio here, which is currently a disaster because I'm about to head out on the road. So my studio gets a little messy around those times. Um, the bass was tracked in Ed's studio because everybody's got a home studio now. That's one of the nice things about the future. The drums were tracked at Mercenary Studios in Akron, or not in Akron, I'm sorry, in Avon. Jeez. So the coffee's not hitting my brain yet. But that studio's best known for like tracking all the Midnight stuff, if you're familiar with Midnight. Um, and then let's see, I think that's everything. Then we sent it off to Ben Bennett in Seattle to have him mix and master it. And we went with Ben Bennett kind of out of happenstance. So we've got a history with Ben because he was in Warbringer around Waking into Nightmares. He's on that record. There was a brief moment where he left Warbringer and almost joined Vindicator, but it just didn't end up working out. And our original engineer, we had to crowdfund this record, going into it with, not enough cash. So basically we utilized crowdfunding like a pre-order. And thankfully we have some very, very patient fans who were willing to, shell out way in advance for the record. So our original engineer, we fell short of being able to afford him, and that was okay because we ended up finding Ben who was willing to work with our budget, and he needed to kind of cut his teeth on a release as well. And I had heard some of the stuff that Ben was doing. Ben has a band called Hyperstrike, he was sending me mixes, and I was like, man, you know, it's not the same kind of music, but the production was real punchy and, you know, very full. And all right, well, let's see what he can do. He's a thrash, you know, he knows thrash. He knows what we're looking for. Let's see what he can do. And honestly, we're completely floored with the job that he did. He did it very quickly and very, very efficiently, and brought in some unique ideas to some of the songs that we were like, yeah, let's run with that. So finding him was a godsend for us because we would have been scrambling to find, you know, a replacement in terms of, you know, engineering that was going to meet our price point and our time frame.
Yeah. And I don't know about you, Vic, but I think like thrash metal right now in 2025, it's at a crossroads. You know, you have like big bands,
Mm,
like from the big four, like saying that they're going to retire, like Megadeth.
right,
Slayer called it quits.
right,
So I think it's time to bring a new, like newer bands in the forefront. You know,
right,
like this year you had like releases by Warbringer.
right, right, right.
You guys are releasing music. There's a few other thrash metal bands that I've like more underground thrash metal bands that I've talked to.
Yeah.
Uh, so my question for you is like, how do you see thrash metal in 2025, Big?
I will see it like some people are like, oh, you know, thrash metal went away. And, you know, we do it's silly, but I kind of pride myself as being one of the front runners of the new wave of thrash, the new wave of thrash. There's been like several waves of thrash, you know, outside of the big four. But you know, yeah, in the United States, thrash metal went back underground in the 90s and then kind of resurged in the
Mhm.
early 2000s with, you know, it kind of started with like I think Violator was one of the early ones. You know, uh who else was in that whole early kind of thing? I know it was Violator. Toxic Holocaust was kind of early. Um, but they kind of started the whole thing back up, and then really took off in like 2005 with like Us and Fueled by Fire and Bonded by Blood and Hatchet and Warbringer and Havoc and all these bands. And you know, like, to be honest, I think that it's 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 probably the same now as it's been for the last 20 years. There's new bands coming out and whatnot and what have you. But you're absolutely right. I want to touch on what you mentioned because I've been saying this for years. So when Dave Mustaine mentioned that Megadeth was done, he really is. He's done. I believe that you're not going to see Megadeth playing festivals like Slayer pulled the "we're done, but well, we're back again" playing festivals. These bands have to retire in order to keep this stuff alive. That's a key thing. Like, none of these young bands are going to be given the same opportunity simply because, and I say this lovingly, the dinosaurs of the genre continue to exist. No new bands are going to rise up and be treated the same. And we're always going to get treated like, oh, you guys are just dumb kids, even though we're like all in our 40s now, you know, because these ancient bands are still touring, they're still putting out albums. And when you talk to fans of the genre, they're going to say, well, I'd rather go see, you know, I'd rather go pay several $100s to see Metallica than, you know, pay $15 to see this band that, you know, kind of sounds like Metallica. And that's sad to me because it's just it's killing the music to me. And it's just an opinion. Not everybody shares that sentiment, but I think that thrash is really strong right now. There's a bunch of new bands, and I'm even like I'm at the age where I don't know half of them coming out. You know, when I was younger, there was a tight knit scene. The scene's not quite as tight knit as it was during that you know, that first resurgence. There are bands that are like, wow, I didn't know you guys were a band. And it's like, man, we've been a band for 20 years. Like, how do you not? I don't know, man. I'm into this stuff so much that I try to keep my finger on the pulse of what's going on. Even if I don't know a band, I'll at least have recognize the logo or recognize the name. There's a lot of folks that don't do their homework, I guess. I don't know. I'm dedicated to this stuff. I don't know why, but
Yeah, no, but that's a good point. Like, like if people don't give newer bands a chance, or like not even like a band like Warbringer, and you guys, you're not even new.
right, right. Yeah, not anymore. Yeah. Not anymore.
Obviously, you're younger
Right.
than
Right.
Metallica and Amp,
Yeah.
but yeah, I think I interviewed a band. this year, like a thrash metal band. I can't remember from where they're from, but they're like the drummer is 17, and like
Okay.
wow, like and really cool band. I think I have the CD here around somewhere because they sent it to me. Oh, this one, Executioner. So they're
Okay.
they're like really young.
Yeah.
I'm not saying we're old, man.
No, I gotcha. I gotcha.
We're in our 40s, which is the new 40s is the new 30s.
Right. Yeah, it's starting to feel that way.
Yeah. So let's talk about some of the tracks on the record. So
Yeah.
you have two singles that are out. First for Violence, and that
Mm,
is perfect thrash metal song. Like
thank you.
it has the word first and violence.
Yeah.
So
Yes.
yeah, tell us a little bit about that one.
Um, that was the last song that we wrote lyrics for. That's a fun fact on that one. Writing so the writing process for me is typically I write a riff and then I write the song and then I'll have this cachet of song titles. And I assigned Thirst for Violence to that one. And I pulled that directly from the original 1997 X-Men. There was an episode where Storm says something about thirst for violence, and I was like, I stopped the cartoon and I jotted it down on my phone. Yes, I'm a nerd. I watch cartoons, but like that's kind of how I do things. If I'm reading a book and a string of words sticks out to me, I'll write it down in my notes to utilize as a song title, and then kind of base what the song is off of the title. So Marshall wrote that one just kind of about like a fictional horde of people who just will kill at any expense, and it's not too far fetched, from certain events nowadays. You can still kind of correlate it with current affairs, but it's not attached directly to there's no super in depth like it's a song about war essentially, and that's what you're going to get out of it. I was really happy with that one in terms of the chorus. I like a good sing song chorus. I When I go to a show and I don't know the band, I like to be able to catch on to a song instantaneously. So the first time I saw Cleveland's Wretch, I don't remember what song it was. They had a few songs though that had that cool sing songy chorus, and it was easy to latch onto, and then you feel like you're more connected to the experience in the show because you're there and you're singing that song. You don't even know that song, but you can connect to it quickly. And I like those kind of songs, so I was like, this one's good because not only does it have, it's got the cool sing songy chorus. There are woes in it, and that's something that I don't think I've utilized yet. That I can, I'm trying to recall in any of the Vindicator material. I don't think there's any like woes in there. Kind of like Exodus with and then there were none, down, down, whoa. They don't do it live, but they do it on the album. And I'm sure that the fans do it live, but it's like that's the kind of stuff I like. And so that was most important to me was the chorus in that song. And it feels good. And there's some creator elements in that song, and it's dirty and kind of punky, and that one turned out really well. And honestly, it's my 12-year-old daughter's favorite off the record. So we kind of went with that as the first single. I was like, man, if a 12-year-old kid likes this one, I'm gonna run with that. Let's tap in and make mom and dad buy some albums for these kids. But and so you just we don't again because of our locations, it's difficult for us to do things like take band photos and film videos and things like that. Like it's impossible. We don't have the budget to fly these guys out every time we want to do something like that. And yeah, sometimes, we're caught up in the moment. We did a tour last year. We should have been able to, take band photos, but things slip away. So you make a visual, you got to like do the thing where like it's just playing the game. So we make visualizers. That's what they call them now. People don't really like lyric videos. I don't know why. I thought a lyric video was cool, but like visualizers are the new thing. So you kind of just slap some stuff together, and I think it works really good. I mean, I do spend a lot of time on these things typically, sitting making them on my phone tiny phone, just using things like CapCut and whatnot. So, but we went with that. I know it's a longer song on the record, and that's another thing too that Vindicator kind of that's unusual for us to have songs that are that length. I think that one's like close to 7 minutes long. So I was happy. I'm happy with a lot of the pieces in there. There's a lot of aspects in it that I felt like kind of showed maturity in our songwriting. But I don't know. It's one of my favorites from the album.
Awesome, man. So yeah, what about Battle Box? Tell us a little bit about that one.
So Battle Box actually made its debut last year. We were able to throw that into our set for last year to kind of give people a taste. That one was actually the last song written for the album. I wrote that at random. Uh, I'm sure that everyone around the world knows how hilarious our presidents can be from time to time, usually most of the time. So this was during, and again, I'm not pro or against whatever. Do think for yourself. That's what I always say. But Joe Biden had mentioned something about Americans settling their differences at the battle box when he meant to say ballot box. Uh, for whatever reason. But I loved it. I was like, again, I heard battle box and I was like, oh, this is brilliant. So I jotted it down, and me and Marshall, our vocalist, were going back and forth, and we kind of wrote this kind of like it's almost like a painkiller esque in terms of Judas Priest writing song about battle bots. So the name's Battle Box. So it's like, yeah, this is cool. This is fun. It came together real quick, man. The lyrics came together, and I think I came downstairs the same day that the entire song. The song might not actually been complete, but I came downstairs and wrote that kind of military, what you hear in the beginning of the and it's got some cool timing with it. And I just went into it. I'm like, this is cool. This is fast, and it's just a kick you in the butt kind of song. And that one I wrote that whole song that day. I do remember that, like the day that we started messing with those lyrics, and then I think I completed the lyrics shortly afterward. But that was we added that. That wasn't originally like all the songs were done, and I came downstairs. I was like, oh, I got one more for you guys. You got to learn now. And then we loved it so much because it's simple, but it's fun and to the point. And like I said, we threw that in our set list last year, and it went over pretty well with audiences. So I'm stoked to have that one on board too.
Awesome. So I'm gonna show the artwork
Sure.
of the report, so we can talk a little bit about the artwork. Let me get it here. Here's the artwork. So let's talk a little bit about the artwork. So here it is, the artwork for Whispers of Death. So tell us a little bit about the artwork.
So art is super important in terms of, you know, selling an album, right? Like people want like super cool art all the time. And it's important to me to have good art. I don't like I don't know. There's a lot of art I just am like this is not good or this is overdone. So we wanted something unique. We didn't really know what direction we're going to go with. One of my favorite artists, Joe Getler, he's done a lot of work for me. He was in the band I think they were called Wild Run, and he was in Razor Maze for a minute. And so I've known him for a long time, and he's done art for me for my traditional band Volcana, and he did 2020's Communal Decay. I might have that my album, and I don't even remember the date it came out. But so we wanted to go a different direction this time. We're like, man, we need something that really, really pops up. And this is the one time in my life that the Facebook algorithm, actually did me right. And Frank's art shows up here. Now, Frank he went to Cleveland for, uh, is it CSU? There's an art program in one of the schools in Cleveland. I think it's CSU. He now resides in Hawaii, but his art came up. Don't know why. I don't follow the page. It just randomly showed up, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is incredible. So we started digging, found out that he sang for Embalmer, which is a Cleveland death metal legend. They've recently retired, but he did vocals for them for a while. We knew all the same. I reached out to the guy. I'm like, do you license your art? I didn't expect to hear a yes. He's like, oh yeah. His licensing deal was incredibly fair. And then we start talking, and he's like, "Oh, I'm a Cleveland native. He knows all the old stomping grounds that we know and all this stuff." And we hit it off real well. And so the band and I set about, which one of these pieces, fits the album the best. And this was the one. It was like, man, this is weird and kind of unsettling. And like when you see something, sometimes it just speaks to you. And this one nailed it. We're like, yeah, this is the one. There were several pieces that we were interested in. And, after considerable thought, it was like, let's do this one. And I think it says Whispers of Death perfectly. I mean, absolutely perfectly. It's a cool color scheme, like the tan and the blue. I don't know. I love it. I wish I could buy the original piece of art, man. I really do, because it's so awesome.
Yeah, no, it's a cool artwork, and it's different too. You know, so
Yeah,
it makes it. You want to stand out in a world. We get bombarded with so much artwork nowadays that it's good to have something
right.
that makes a difference.
And
Yeah.
we've gotten a lot of good. I mean, initially when we didn't have music, we were getting good feedback from that. Like people were like, "Oh my gosh, this art is insane," and it was like it is. Frank Walls, that's his style. So if you like go check this guy out on Facebook, that's how he makes art. Like it's wild. He does a lot of his process. You can watch him, like he does like the time lapse of him making this art, and it's insane, man. The guy is hyper talented, really, really, really talented. And I don't know why I've never heard of him before. I think he's done art for what's the band? Imperial Triumphant, I think is the band. Like if you go
Oh.
look at his art, you could like
Mhm.
see it, you'll go, "Oh yeah, that's who." You can like you see the art that he did for him and you go, "Oh yeah, that's that band." And then it turns out, "Oh, it is that band." So he does like art for, you know, books and whatever a person wants to utilize it for, but it's usually like a book or an album, typically is what he's doing. Incredible artist, absolutely phenomenal artist, and he's been a super pleasure to work with. I
Yeah, no,
can't say
it
enough
looks.
good stuff about the guy.
Yeah. So the album's out the 22nd, and you guys are heading up on you're doing 4 concerts. I
Yeah.
think when are the concerts that you're gonna do?
August 28th through the 31st. So it's our Labor Day weekend. I tried to utilize the holiday weekend for these shows, which turned out to be more difficult than you would imagine. I guess a lot of people do actually travel on that weekend. It's like one of those boneheaded things I did, but it worked out. So we've got Cleveland on the 28th, Dayton on the 29th, Mount Pleasant, Pennsylvania on the 30th, and Indianapolis, Indiana on the 31st.
It's like four shows, and you have the. Are you gonna have physical copies of the record for the shows?
Yes, yes, we have them in safe and sound, and we will have those available at those gigs. For folks that may not know us and then want to pick something up. We have most of our discography available, which is kind of nice for us. We've been fortunate enough to have a few reissues and some of the stuff. Like we have a split, and those didn't sell real well. I get people don't really like splits. I guess I love them. I think it's cool, but they're kind of hard to move. But we still have most of that stuff available. Just and mainly because you know let's be honest, it's hard for us to play live. You get rid of stuff when you play live. When you have half your band living in different states, it's difficult to play live. So that's another reason why we have like these kind of short tours kind of fit our band dynamic better than trying to do a show here or there, or some real long run. We all have like mortgages and kids and stuff and things. Like we don't have time to do the whole. I would love to go out and tour the U.S. for a month, but I know what kind of money that brings in for a band like us. I'm not rich, so none of us can really afford that. But it's good to still get out there and play live and get our stuff in front of new fans, and then get our stuff in front of the diehards as well.
Yeah, and the copies are on CDs, right?
Correct. Yeah. This first run, we self-funded this first run, so it's just CD. It's very stripped down, bare bones. So like, you're not getting liner notes or anything like that. But it's nice to have that physical media. I think a lot of people are starting to understand why people collect physical media, especially in the day and age of streaming. There's been a lot of uproar recently about things being pulled off of streaming sites, and that's why people collect DVDs, because streaming sites aren't pulling them out of their house. So your favorite film might not be there where you thought it was in like a year, and then you're good luck if you find it again. So you can look behind me. I've my CD collections. What you can see, the LPs are actually physically behind me over here, and
I see them.
cassettes are on the wall somewhere over, I don't know, over here. But I like my collecting. Um, so we try to get, at least a CD out for the physical collectors. I mean, of course, I want to see this thing on vinyl. I love vinyl records. But we can't afford to do that. And if a label's willing to do it, we'll gladly work out a deal with them. But as of right now, we're just doing the short run of CDs, and you know, there's no crazy rush on, like, if we were doing like a major tour, I might be concerned about lack of, additional formats and things like that. But it's like this is fine for what we're doing.
Yeah, and if not, people can get it. I think on Bandcamp.
Yeah,
Like,
absolutely.
and yeah, I'll post the link for people who want to support that. So yeah, so Big, I want to thank you, for taking some time of your morning to chat with me about Vindicators, music and Whispers of the Dark. So before I let you go, like, anything you like to say to the fans before we go?
No, just, please check out the record, and tell your friends and tell the world, put it in your TikToks and stuff. But outside of that, thanks to anyone who's watching this and checks out the band, and thanks to the long-standing fans who have supported us from day one, because it's a lot harder than a lot of folks think to stick around and claw, around for 20 years. Like, it's a lot of crawling around and picking yourself up and dusting yourself off. So without, the support that we've had, we probably we wouldn't be having this conversation right now.
Yeah. Yeah, the fans are everything. Like, without
Yeah.
fans, no music.
Right. Correct.
Like, and without fans, for me, no. If no one watches my videos, then what? Then why would I make videos? Like,
Right. Exactly.
yeah. But so yeah, so Big, it's been great chatting with you this Sunday morning. So Couchers, Vindicator, new album this Friday the 22nd. If you like thrash metal, check this one out. And like, if you can, support bands, especially now, because we need
Yeah.
bands to fill in the spot of the older bands that are
Yes.
retiring, so the music can keep going. So
Absolutely.
so until next time, Couchers, this is Hector, the Shield Dude on a Couch, and I'll see you all right here on the couch. Thank you and goodbye.